Okay, right. Thank you. So, as you know, I said that Vesak is celebrated throughout the world. Now, the UN also celebrates the day of Vesak as an international observance. The United Nations Day of Vesak was really commenced in by a resolution in 1999, and in this respect, I must state that this was spearheaded by the late Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Lakshman Kadirgama, and the resolution was co-sponsored by 33 countries and acknowledges Buddhism's 2,500-year contribution to humanity. So that shows that it's not only in the Buddhist countries, but all over the world that this is being celebrated. So today we are very fortunate that we have a very learned monk, Buddhist monk, who will be giving the Dhamma talk to you. And and as you all know, the topic is also relating to the Paticca Samuppadaya, and which relates to the Buddhism and the Dhamma, which I thought was something that would be good, especially on this Vesak Poya Day. I will like to briefly maybe give a few words about our Venerable Thero. Venerable Thero is Venerable Professor Miriswatte Vimalajana Thero, a Sri Lankan Buddhist monk, and currently Professor and Head of the Department of Buddhist Culture at the Postgraduate Institute of Pali and Buddhist Studies of the University of Kelaniya, Sri Lanka. He received both his undergraduate and postgraduate education from the University of Peradeniya and has been serving education since 2006, including academic appointments at the Bhikkhu University of Sri Lanka and the University of Peradeniya. He was promoted to the rank of professor in 2015. Professor Vimalajana has published more than 40 research articles in Sri Lanka, English, yes, in Sinhala, English, and Pali in both local and international journals, authored 2 books, and presented papers at numerous international academic conferences. His research interests include early Buddhist philosophy, Abhidhamma, and Buddhist art and Buddhist history. So we are very happy, Venerable Thero. We wish to welcome you. And I also must thank one of our other Buddhist monks who has been also engaged in the Dhamma programs, the Venerable Professor Madhakampitiya Vijitadhamma Thero, who is a professor in Pali at the Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, who really put me in touch and recommended Venerable Miriswate Vimalajana Thero to give the Dhamma talk today. And of course, I must also say that Venerable Professor Madhakampitiya Vijitadhamma Thero recently received the title of Aggamaha Gantha Vachaka Pandita from the government of the Union of Myanmar in 2021. That's Myanmar is Burma, from which country many of our leading Buddhist monks received maybe a lot of awards. So Venerable Thero, what we will do is Venerable Thero can give Pansil and then start on the Dhamma talk. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
So to start, who
Yes,
will
Venerable
be?
Thero, can you give Pansil and then start? Shall I say Namo?
So
Namo
say
Dasa
start with.
Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Dasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Dasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa.
Ang saranang gacchami.
Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang gacchami.
Dhammang saranang
Sangham
gacchami.
saranang gacchami.
Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Yampi Buddhang saranang
Tiyampi
gacchami.
dhammang saranang gacchami.
Yampi Dhammang saranang
Titiyampi
gacchami.
sangham saranang gacchami.
Yampi Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi buddhang saranang gacchami.
Yampi Buddhang saranang gacchami.
Tatiyampi dhammang saranang gacchami.
Yampi Dhammang saranang
Tatiyampi
gacchami.
sangham saranang gacchami.
Yampi Sanghang saranang gacchami.
Panatipata virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Panatipata viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Adinādāna virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Dinādāna viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kāme sumicchāchārā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Kāmesu vichāchārā viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Musāvādā virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Savādā viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Suramire majjapama datthana virmani sikkhapadang samadhiyami.
Puramure majapamadatthana viramani sikkhapadang samadhiyami. Sa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. I am, first of all, very happy to have been invited to give this special Dhamma talks on the Vesak full moon Poya day on behalf of International Dhamma program. I am very happy to see the attempt and efforts of a learned, reputed scholar, a retired professor, Professor Vatawala. And this is absolutely, this will conducive for the promotion of Buddhism. And I see a lot of online participants, apart from my university lectures. This is the biggest gathering, I would say, that I see. So it is almost 160 participants present at the moment. Now, Professor Vatawala gave a basic, and also thank you for the introduction, the short introduction, and also recommendation. The recommendation by Venerable Professor Medagampiti Vijitadhamma, the recommendation of my name for this particular program. Now, to begin with what Professor Vatawala mentioned about Vesak full moon Poya day, I am not actually expecting to talk very much about Vesak full moon Poya day. I should mention a little bit about the international celebration of Vesak, being Sri Lankans, being those who are living in a traditional Buddhist country. We see so many activities, SEAL programs, and other meritorious activities being conducted across the country. So that is very, very usual, and that is a beautiful dimension of our Buddhist culture. Now, International Vesak Day is a very special thing. I think we should memorize the name of Dr. Lakshman Kadiragamar, who actually worked hard for the nomination of the Vesak full moon Poya day as an international holiday. And as a result of that, we came across that this year, the Vesak, a huge celebration was conducted in China this time, and it will continue every year in the years to come. Now today, the Vesak full moon Poya day was the day that the Buddha became enlightened. And as we know that it was the day when the Buddha, after the enlightenment, expressed that he understood a doctrine which was unheard before. So now we have this famous statement in the canon that Pubbhe Ananusutesu Dhammesu. Anyone who knows about the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta knows, can come across this statement, Pubbhe Ananusutesu Dhammesu. Pubbhe, previously, Ananusutesu Dhammesu, of unheard doctrines. So that Buddha was confident enough to say that what he understood on the Vesak full moon Poya day was a doctrine which was not familiar to any religious teacher before his time. Now, I have this simile sometimes. I quite often use when I give lectures to my students. And the simile is about a gatekeeper. Now, a gatekeeper is someone who is employed to assure the assurance of a particular institution, whether it be university or another institution. But at a certain point, a particular person might come and ask this gatekeeper the way to a particular building. The person coming from outside is a stranger. Say the gatekeeper is in Colombo, and he's serving for a particular institution, and this outside person comes and asks from the gatekeeper the way for a particular building. Now, gatekeeper, as he knew the way to the place mentioned by the outsider, he showed the way, he pointed out the way to that particular building. Now, as we closely observe, the gatekeeper's purpose is not to show the path, tell the path anyone, tell the path to a particular place, and introduce or to tell how to go to a particular place to anyone else. His major purpose is to assure the protection of the place. But out of compassion, even though it is not his major, it is not what is intended from him. He, out of compassion, he told that person the way to that particular building. Now, in the same way, the Buddha has acted in a similar manner in his life. Now, what I mean by this is that Buddha, when he was asked about something related to human life, the progress of the ordinary life, he would definitely, out of compassion, he would definitely answer. So we see some of the sutras of that nature. Now, for instance, Sigaloa, the sutta, we see a person who was committed to perform rituals that was taught by his father, and he was a heretical person in the sense that he belonged to another religion, probably Hinduism. And the Buddha gave an advice which is very different from the many other discourses, because in that we don't see the traditional way of explaining the Dhamma as we see in the other discourses. And another one is the discourse given to Digajanu Koliya Putta. The sutta is called Vyaghapajya Sutta, where the person, the listener, absolutely wanted the teaching from the Buddha, particularly related to the lay life. And he said about himself that he was a person ready to enjoy the luxuries of life, and he was not a person to renounce the life. And the Buddha's instructions was basically about the earning money, profit making, the the economic aspect of life. So such a doctrine was given because the purpose of the person was different. But it doesn't mean that these are the major teachings. Now, when we talk about Buddhism, we talk about social philosophy. We talk about Buddhist jurisprudence, so and so forth, and we talk about Buddhist psychology. So there are many terms and many disciplines, but the major intentions of the Buddha was to show, actually, as it is said in the Buddhist text, Attakara Tini Pada Sambuddhena Pakasita. The Buddha declared, discoursed only uh, 8 syllables and 3 words, Attakara Tini Pada, which includes Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta. So Anicca, Dukkha, and Anatta is connected with all other teachings, and the discourse that the the topic that we are concerned with today, that is Paticca Samuppada, is also well connected with this Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, suffering. Now, before to begin to go to my topic, I would like also to tell something about the challenges in uh, giving in this kind of Dhamma talk. One challenge is that the interest of the people. So if some different people have different interests, their approach to Buddhism is different. Now sometimes we see Buddhism is converted, in different socio-economic system, socio-cultural context, we see Buddhism being transformed into a system or teaching in which Buddhism is expected to promote day-to-day life. That is not wrong. I don't say that is wrong, but the major now basically the expectation is to make this the worldly life, the day-to-day life is happy. So that is one dimension. Probably some of the Westerners have this kind of purpose. Now we have these different therapeutic systems, so and so forth, but we see them now the way how they are transformed. If we look at the way how the Buddhism is transformed, the meditation systems are transformed. Now there is a sort of conversion, a transformation of the Buddhist teaching to suit to the modern day expectation. Another challenge is the academic interpretations. Now, the what Buddha understood is totally a truth, which was complete in itself. So the Buddha was confident in that when he said Adi Kalyanam, Majje Kalyanam, Pariyosana Kalyanam. So it was complete in itself in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end. But modern day, we know that studies are more, like the academic studies have a different approach. Now, Buddhism is complete in itself, but academic studies are gradually growing. Now, the reason for me to say is this, that actually academic studies are more objective, more scientific, and needs evidence to support different theses of Buddhism. Now, we have different Buddhisms, different interpretations of Buddhism. So there is also now very much like in case of other sciences, Buddhist, the thesis of Buddhism also can be falsifiable if new text, new evidence is found. Then it is always possible the existing thesis be uh, discarded, and then to behold a new thesis. So that is what we call academic. So the interpretations are given, the definitions are given based on based on the data available. So in this kind of way, sometimes we feel so a practitioner always come across certain difficulties, when explaining what he understands and what he interprets in his mind in terms of experience in the presence of this a lot of academic kind of definitions and interpretations. Sometimes even today you might see some of the definitions. So I'm in between the scenario between this academic and the practice. So I am in a way I am someone serving for a university, teaching at different levels, and then I am also a practitioner. But I have understood that, of course, some of these theses needs to be reinterpreted or redefined, because now academically they are sound, but on certain circumstances for a practitioner it is always felt that some sort of reinvestigation is necessary. So that is I mean, this is the kind of background that I can give before coming to the exact topic. Now, in order to come to the topic now, as I would like to show a few slides, if you can see the slides, the topic, the exact topic selected is the universal vision of Paticca Samuppada, and there are other dimensions connected to topic, that is reality, interconnection, and human experience. Now, the universal vision of Paticca Samuppada. Now, Paticca Samuppada is always it has a universal vision. It is a universal principle, in other words. And it is a reality because it talks about the true nature of life, because Paticca Samuppada is about the origin of suffering. And the other part of Paticca Samuppada is also the way out of suffering. And it also talks about is dealing with interconnections. Paticca Samuppada is not something that belong to the one particular person. So it also can talk about how we build up connections. I mean, in different ways. So you can say for the progress or for the decline. And in connection with the long existence of samsara, that is a decline. That is a declining, because the more the samsara is extended, that is a kind of, from the Buddhist point of view, that is a kind of degeneration, the downfall. And that is a human experience. Both Paticca Samuppada and the way out of it must be a first-hand experience of a particular person. So these are some of the areas, some of the dimensions, aspects that I am going to talk about. So as for the better understanding and better clarification, I quite often used some of these slides, because some of the Pali terms are not, of course, you are not familiar with some of these Pali terms that I am using. So therefore, I find it better to use slides whenever necessary. Now, to talk about dependent co-arising, actually, I would say that dependent co-arising is more, I should say, again, more epistemological and philosophical kind of translation. But if you look at the translation, it is absolutely correct, because dependently co-arising, if you take the meanings of the words interconnected, now the translation dependently co-arising is a very good translation. But I think it is a more epistemological and more philosophically oriented interpretation. So rather than because now it talks about how how we can view the origin of the phenomena, not exactly the suffering, because the Buddha's purpose of introducing Paticca Samuppada is not to talk about the epistemological, to give an epistemological interpretation or a philosophical interpretation to how the things are arising together. But the Buddha's purpose was to directly to refer to suffering, origin of suffering. So he was relating this great doctrine to that particular thing. So therefore, actually, even though the translation is correct, I find this is probably, in my understanding, this could be a more philosophical translation by later traditions, including Theravada. Because if you look at different traditions, the concept is interpreted in the same way. So I think it's, so therefore my view, the personal view, it is my personal understanding, it is a later, sophisticated, technical, philosophically oriented, and epistemology oriented interpretation, which is good, but it is better to understand the teaching as a causal origin of suffering. Okay, causal origin of suffering. So I think whatever the technical dimension of translation, you need to understand that causality is about the causal origin of suffering. Okay, now yes. Now here, this is the reality. So if you look at this one, when you talk about reality, actually, this is what is called four-limbed scheme of Paticca Samuppada, and this is the what absolutely you know the way how the Buddha showed it, the universality of reality, because this is a summary of the application or the what we call efficacy, the functional dimension of Paticca Samuppada. When this exists, that comes to be. Imasmin sati idam hoti. So this is the beginning of causality. So here I have underlined the word this. So this has a technical meaning. This is not very much found in the text, but when I associate some of the meditating monks, their view is that this means nothing else but the six sense organs, including mind, and the corresponding sense objects. So this exists, that comes to be. So when we have these six senses and corresponding objects, always there is tendency for the other dhammas to arise, which are described in the Paticca Samuppada formula. Now, this is not the Paticca Samuppada formula. This is the kind of now the Buddha's explanation of its the way how it functions. So this it is where we find that universality. Again, with this arising, that arises. Imasa upada idam upajyati. With the arising of this, that arises. So these four, the two limbs of this Paticca Samuppada is connected with the four truths of what we call four noble truths. The first two truths of Paticca four noble truths directly connected with the two positions or limbs of this scheme. I should say something that, I mean, we are talking about causality quite often, but there should be, now we should understand that causality was introduced not only by the Buddha, because now we have this word in connection with Indian religions, that Kiryavadi. Now Kiryavadi, and there is another group called Akiryavadi. Kiryavadi means those who believe in cause and effect, right? So that is the meaning of Kiryavadi. So they believe in karma and the fruition of karma. If any tradition is said to believe in the karma and the fruition of karma, it means that they were or they are believing in cause and effect. Now, for example, if you take Jaina tradition, they have explained some of the doctrines in the similar fashion to the Buddha. Now, Buddha said that both good and bad is conducive for the existence of suffering. Now, I think you have heard of that. Even the punya, because punya has what we call karmic force. The bad has a karmic force. Good, functioning in a different way, also has a karmic force. Both give results. In order to effect results, for the results to effect, in order to experience the fruition of both, we have to extend our existence, which we call as samsara in modern terminology. So now, this particular dimension was explained by Jains in the very similar fashion. because they understood that both punya, they used the word punya, and punya and papa are conducive for the long existence, ongoing, the endless existence and resultant suffering. So now the Buddha did it in the same way. So therefore, causality was not actually in the real sense. Causality was understood by many of the religions. But in my understanding, the difference between the uniqueness of the Buddha's teaching, the speciality, the remarkable dimension of the Buddhist causality is not because of talking about the origin of suffering, as explained in the two limbs of this scheme, but in accordance with what Buddha showed in the later two limbs. What are the later two limbs? We have these two, when the two latter limbs, when this does not exist, that does not come to be. Imasming asati idam na hoti. When the cessation of that ceases, imasa nirodha idam nirujyati. So in my understanding, actually, the uniqueness of the Paticca Samuppada formula depends here, because there was no a philosopher or a religious teacher who could show the non-existence or the liberation. So actually, the two latter parts refer to liberation, because if does not exist means that the energy related to the forces related to our senses and corresponding sense objects do not function, do not come into being. That is what it means. So when this does not exist, that does not come to be, and with the cessation of this, that ceases. Imasa nirodha idam nirujyati. Now, if you look at the major religions in India during the time of the Buddha, the old Hinduism and also the Jainism, which were prominent during that time, it is very clear that there was something remaining, something that belongs to this life, also remains after the liberation. Isn't it so? So probably now the Buddha talks about the Nibbana. Nibbana is a state where you don't find anything remaining from this life. This life is totally worldly, sankhata, and the Nibbana is asankhata. So if something is going to remain after the enlightenment, rather after the end of this life, after the end of this life, that is not going to be a proper Nibbana, because some sort of experience that belongs to the worldly realm, the worldly experience remains, and the same thing goes, whether it be Atman or whether it be spirit or whether it's something else. So it is what escapes the body. What leaves the body is something that again belongs to this life. So the Buddha's completeness in his introduction to Paticca Samuppada was that not only he showed the origin, but also he showed what we call end, the liberation in a causal manner. So we know after the enlightenment and after the parinibbana, there is nothing remain. Nothing that belongs to this life remains. So we have heard that yatta apocha patavi tejo vayona gadhati. In the asankata world, you don't find any of these patavi apo tejo vayo. Yatta apocha patavi tejo vayona gadhati. So these things which makes the foundation for the worldly existence do not remain. So the Nibbana is a state. Nibbana seems not to be a annihilation. So it is not described, because if the Buddha talks about a state which doesn't have this, the state where you don't find these kind of things like Satara Maha, Four Noble, Four Satara Mahabhutas, Four Great Elements, and stars, light, concepts, anything. So that is a different type of state which is totally different from the Sankhata world. I think that is the kind of interpretation given. So the total annihilation, so the total destruction, non-existence, I think is something that I understand is not something taught in. So now there are interpretations, of course, now interpretations about total annihilation, so total destructions. But in my understanding, that is a different transformation from the worldly existence, different transformation, a transformation from worldly existence to asankata, non-worldly existence. So now Buddha is complete in his introduction. Both are the origin of suffering and the cessation of suffering, the eradication of suffering are shown in a causal manner, and it is very complete that in the Buddha's thesis there is no way that somebody is going to suffer again, somebody is going to return again. Because in the later Hindu philosophy we have seen that people describing the return, a return from the worlds that they where they were existing after liberation. So this is the important thing. Okay, so now if you yeah, if you come to this slide, I think this is the Paticca formula. This is the functional dimension. That is how the Buddha showed in very, I mean, this is very famous and many know what this is. So this is the famous Paticca formula with the ignorance, now that is how the the conditioning is taking place, and how the conditioning is leading towards the origin of suffering. So very famous avidya pachya, the very famous formula in Pali, avidya pachya sankhara, and sankhara pachya vijnana is very much heard and uh, uh, very much discussed and very much shown a translation, and the essence of that particular formula is given here, and this is shown by many scholars, and there is no change. With ignorance as condition, the volitional construction sankhara, with volitional construction as condition is consciousness, with consciousness as condition is mind matter. I am using this word mind matter because I don't like to use the word mind and body, because in my understanding, mind and body is not fitting to what the Buddhist Nama Rupa. With mentality and materiality as condition, that is actually, it should also be a mistake. Mind matter as condition is six fold sense bases, with six sense bases, that is salayatana, ear, eye, ear, nose, tongue, etc. Contact, phassa arises. With the contact as conditioning, feeling, vedana. With feeling as condition is craving, tanha. And then with craving as condition is clinging. With clinging as condition is becoming, bhava. With becoming as condition is birth. And with birth as condition are decay and death. So there are 12 limbs, including Jara Marana here. So there are 12 limbs, and this is very famous ones. In some of the discourses, we see the number of limbs reduced to 9. So there is a variation, but I do not think that subtle differences uh, we can take into account at here, and I am also not interested in, I'm not very much intending to talk about those subtle variations. As far as we know, there are some discourses which has a lesser number of 9 limbed formula. So, but basically this is the extended version. I think this is for this discussion we can take this one. Now if you take now this one is a little bit of introduction that I have given to all these limbs. I think this is very important. Oh yeah, I can put this one. Okay, so maybe try with the, I can
You
hide
can
this.
see it. We can see
You
it.
can see.
Yes, yes.
So
Right, we
yeah,
can.
so yeah, I can start from here. So here, now avidya is not knowing underlying reality. So basic, I mean, trying to give a basic introduction about this. So ignorance is basically not knowing the underlying reality. So the people normally don't know that there is a suffering going on and the way out of it. So suffering, even inhaling and exhaling, the breath is a suffering, even though we don't notice it. From the birth to the death, how much effort we are taking to in for in breath and out breath. So even though we don't notice it, it is also part of suffering. And how difficult it is to bear if we are somehow at a certain stage of time, at a certain point, if we are unable to in breathe and out breathe. So look at the suffering. And then another meaning is, without understanding the origin of suffering, one may assume that the material and the conventional world possesses inherent meaning and significance. So the people normally think in the people, if you have ignorance, normally, now this is not in the text, but it is a kind of, uh, a personal kind of observation, not my observation, but it is as a result of my association with some, other not reputed, I can't use that word, but other uh, the practitioners who have developed kind of spiritual nature. So they are also saying that without understanding the origin of suffering, one might think that the worldly things have something, meaning the things that we see, things that we hear, some might take as valuable things. There is something important to, possess or to associate with. The volitional construction, sankhara is a very difficult term, but you can translate it as impulse or an urge to possess, manipulate, and indulge in material phenomena in pursuit of enjoyment. So sankhara is a basic urge. You can't say that it is associated with uh, what we call three basic roots of unwholesome roots, but or wholesome roots, but it is basically, but the basic nature of sankhara is that you are seeking for, you are hankering for this, intrinsic kind of expectation of happiness or the pursuit of happiness. So the impulse is there to possess or to manipulate or to indulge the things you experience. Consciousness is where you see the things, you experience the things, you hear the things. So now this is basically the psychological nature, your basic tendency, and then again, uh, now the psychological nature, the impulse, and based upon that impulse, now you experience. Now, say a small kid he thinks that he needs a pet, and if he has a pet, his things will be very beautiful, and he would be able to enjoy. So ignorance is something that, so he always thinks that pet is meaningful because he knows some the way how, how the valuable cat is going to be in his life. Then he needs to the impulse to possess it, etc. And then he gets a cat, and he sees the cat, he touches the cat, he smells the cat, etc. So that is what we call vinyan. So this is the, I mean, the moment that we, make contacts with the external world, animate or inanimate. So as soon as we have this conscious experience, now we are starting our connection with outside. So our relations, our wives, our children, all these things actually are connected to us when we have this kind of sense experience, and the resultant, activities, the sort of associations. Then the mind matter is nama rupa is called mind matter, a psychological and subjective response in prior experience. Now, actually, this has been a very difficult term. I think there are many translation of nama rupa. One translation is that it is the mind and body, our five skandhas, And another translation is that it is just how long, how many minutes can I
We can
give?
continue maybe another, we finished, we were late, another 10 to 15 minutes.
15 minutes. Okay, so yeah, I will shorten my explanation. So mind matter is basically an experience, a psychological and subjective response grounded in prior experience, because prior experience comes in the form of a memory. So it's not actually, I call it a perceptual dynamism. A closer idea is given by an American scholar called Sue Hamilton. Sue Hamilton says that it is not entirely mind and body, but it is what we call perceptual aspect. When something, we experience something, we have a pre-learned experience which may come as in the form of prior experience, and which makes the external experience meaningful and informative. Now, sixfold sense bases are not just sense organs, but they are psychological and subjective domain through which experience becomes informative. So normally in the text, the salayatana is not introduced as sin or wholesome or unwholesome, because it is the level where you get a lot of nama rupa. So salayatana is a result of amalgamation, coming together a lot of nama rupa. So the result is passa. So when you have a lot of nama rupas, based on what we experience, external things, contact of the totality of experience with tendencies, greed, hatred, and delusion. Actually, passa is the real level if you closely observe, where now passa is normally translated as contact, but in my kind of way of translating, it is a contact of the totality of experience with the tendency. So it's not the contact with the object. Probably we can discuss this later on. Contact, it's not the contact with the external object, but it is the contact uh, with the contact of the totality of experience. Now, up to this moment, we have seen that there is a lot of information gathered. So this total experience is connected to what we call tendencies, greed, hatred, and delusion. So absolutely, whether it be good or bad, the tendencies are unwholesome, greed, hatred, and delusion. Even though you are doing a good act, still it has sort of tendencies, a subtle, at least in the subtle form. So the rest of the things I think I should not discuss very much. So feeling, affective feeling, craving, psychological attachment, clinging, emotional bond, becoming bhava, determination of the nature of existence. So if you, now this is the result at the level of bhava, because now you as a human being, when you have these sensuous objects, so many sensuous objects in your experience, now the tendency is that the nature is that the intrinsic nature is that you are bound to the sansara. So you must be mostly either in the sensuous world, because you have a lot of sensuous experience, and you could be fine material experience if you have deeper meditative experience like jhanas, or immaterial if you have experience of this deeper jhanas called immaterial meditations, arupa jhana, rupa jhana, and arupa jhana. So whatever the existence determine, the birth is unavoidable. So then the birth continues, and unavoidable birth is unavoidable birth in one of the three realms, and then suffering. And that is what the Buddha teaches as the origin of suffering. And this is also what we call interconnectedness is determined. So in this connection, we have a lot of associations, we have a lot of emotional bonds, lot of psychological attachments to different things, animate and inanimate. So this become a type of naya, a depth, because based on, I mean, in the truest and profound philosophy, our attachment to something, whatever the object, is a situation or an event where may create a bond which again and again we have to meet to express our same emotion or psychological attachment. So that is, I think, the true and profound the teaching of the Buddha. So that is why Buddhism teaches this picture, and this picture is what is called the real picture. So that is totally different from the conventional world. Conventional world is, you admire this existence. Your birth, you admire, you do a lot of rituals to uh, admire to those events of life, milestone, and you admire everything that we possess, that we get, but the true nature is something different. So that is why Buddhism is not anusotagami. Anusotagami means going downstream, conventional. Buddhism is going upstream, which is not conventional. So it is called Patisotagami. So this doctrine is not Anusotagami, but it is a doctrine of Patisotagami, going upstreams, which is a difficult path. It's not easy. Now, can we refrain from admiring this life? No, sometimes even Buddhism is transformed in such a way that we use it to admire or to facilitate or foster the happinesses or the happy the kind of luxuries or the happiness or the comforts of this life. So that is the way how things happen. Okay, so with that, I would like the causal pattern of now the way out of suffering, the causal pattern of the way out of suffering is a human experience. I mean, everything is human experience, even though some of the things actually that I explained earlier in the Paticca formula are not noticed. It's not a common experience. You can't call it a common experience. But actually, the suffering is a common experience, we know. But this causal pattern of the way out of suffering is absolutely a human experience, because the one who is practicing to deny, to uh, to end suffering, experiences the result of that. So there are few suttas actually which are there are many suttas actually, many suttas that talks about the elimination of suffering, eradication of suffering. But these three suttas are very important, and they explain the causal origination of the way out of suffering. The Panya Buddhi Sutta is a is a is an explanation of the four causes of wisdom uh, for stream entry in other courses and other discourses. Especially now it talks about four causes of improvement or promotion of wisdom. I think depending upon the time, probably I may end up with this explanation, uh, the explanation of this particular sutra. Now, the four causes for the promotion of panya is, one is Sapurisa Sansevo. Sapurisa Sansevo is actually the association with good friends. So that is a noble person, a person who is confident in explaining the suffering and the way out of suffering. So only in that kind of combination or an association it is possible to learn. The second, to learn the true path and to be confident in that I am in the right track. The second one is Saddhamma Savana, the listening to the teaching, and the Yoniso Manasikara, proper investigation of concentration. And the last one is the Dhammanudhamma Patipatti, that is the practice. So you have to start from listening to the teaching, because I think this is, I should say that it is not from any other thing that we come to a level where we are confident in the path, in the practice, but it is by listening to Dhamma. That is why Buddha emphasized the learning from the eligible ones, that is the noble ones. So this stage is very important. Sapurisa Sangseva is very important, and then listening to the doctrine, and then proper investigation, reflection, proper reflection, Yoniso Manasikara, and then the Dhammanudhamma Patipatti. The Dhammanudhamma Patipatti is the Patipatti, the practice based on Eightfold Noble Path. And these two sutras, the Kundaliya Sutra is also the same. And Chetana Karaniya Sutra is also an explanation of the fact that when you are on the right track, actually, there is no need of making efforts for the promotion of your spiritual upgrading, spiritual promotion, advancement. Naturally, things happen for the person on the moral basis. Sīlavato sīla sampannasana chetaniya karaniya avipatipsari me hotuti. So there is not necessity for the person on the moral basis to make an effort or to wish for the kind of to avoid the diligence of the material objects, the things of enjoyment. So that naturally happens. And the person who has a sort of moral basis, and again it continues up to samadhi, the one who has psychological kind of happiness, piti, and the one who has the bodily pleasure, happiness, sukha, and he doesn't need to make an effort for the concentration to develop. It naturally happens. So it means that there should not be any strain for, unnecessary strain is not, should not be there, because it is a gradual and natural development when the person is on the right track in the spiritual progress. So that is the end of my discussion. So I think if you do not have, if any clarification is not clear to you, we can discuss later on.
Thank you very much, Venerable Thero. I think it was a very detailed Dhamma talk on the Paticcasamuppada, and I'm sure that all our Dhamma friends and Dhamma devotees would have listened to it. And if you have any questions, kindly send on Q&A, because then we can give it to Venerable Thero to answer any questions. Venerable Thero, there is one I just want to ask you, because a lot of those who have been coming for our Dhamma talks have been talking of this, how they can enter this the stream entry. On stream entry, where a lot of them have been asking how, at what level or what stage that you could enter. Can Venerable Thero explain a little on that?
Now it is clearly given, and I in the very last slide that I showed you, it is clearly given the uh, the uh, the way to reach to the pre-entry level is nothing but these four courses, the courses that I mentioned towards the end of my discussion. So first thing is, what I started from listening to Sapurisa Sangsevo. So the listening to Dhamma discoursed by Sapurisa, righteous or the noble one, is the beginning. So that is, I think, the reason is given in the Kundaliya Sutra. The reason is given is that we have these seven factors of enlightenment, Satta Bojjhanga, and I think many of you have heard of these factors: Sati, Dhamma, Vichaya, Virya, Piti, Passadi, Samadhi, and Upekka. Starting from Sati. Sati is not actually, it's not, Sati is not mindfulness per se. Sati is the vigilance of one's own mind, whether it shifts from bad to worse. So that vigilance is called what we call sati. So starting from sati, we have this sati, dhamma vichaya, dhamma investigation of what we call the wholesome factors, virya, the effort, so and so forth. So these seven now they are called Bodhipakya Dharma, the factors of enlightenment. So now the reason given, and I was told by some of the great teachers that I have associated, they are saying that in this experience, and that is also, I mean, they are saying that, I mean, the moment where you can develop these 7 factors equally is the moment that you are listening to a Dhamma discourse. So there is no any other moment. I mean, at the beginning of the process, there is no moment where you can develop these factors the same equally at a particular moment. So it is the moment of listening. So starting is there. Other things are effective. It doesn't mean that all other things are effective, but the moment of listening to a great discourse, a fruitful discourse, is the beginning.
Thank you, Venerable Thero. Anyone on our panel who would... Senaka, you have any comments you want to make? You have to unmute and speak.
Sir, and thankful for you. You explained this Paticcasamuppada Dhammapada in word by word. You explain word by word, sir. That's very explanative. Thank you very much for explaining this
My pleasure.
Dhammapada by this way. Thank you, sir.
Venerable Thero, you mentioned about the importance of the UN Day. I am happy that our former ambassador to the UN, Ambassador Rohan Pereira, is here. Rohan, would you like to say anything? You're muted, Rohan. I don't know whether... All right. We have to unmute Rohan. Right. Okay, yeah.
No, I recall that year when Mr. Kadirgam spearheaded this initiative, and that was viewed as a high point in our on our UN agenda. And thereafter, every year, in fact, I have presided over several sessions, and so it is something that we are indeed proud of, and to which so many of our colleagues have contributed. So once again, much credit to all those who have contributed to this initiative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rohan. I think Bhikkhu Bodhi gave the
Yes.
first Dhamma talk, I think. Oh, is
Yes.
that correct? Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rohan.
Thank you.
There are, if anyone else, do you have any other comments anyone wants to make? There is a question that has been received. Actually, it's from Jayanta Vikramarachi. Thank you, Venerable, for the excellent lecture. I regret I never went to a Buddhist university. I felt that I am listening to a great professor on Buddha Dhamma. Thank you so much. I would like the possibilities to participate of your other lectures. Thank you very much. Thank you, Janta, for your comments. Those are the only questions I have. Anyone from our... then can I ask who... Kamal, you like to say something and also to thank Venerable Thero? Yeah.
So, thank you, Lakshman. Yeah. First of all, we are very, very happy that Venerable Nrisvati Vimala Jnana Thero was able to conduct this interesting Dhamma talk on Vesak Day. I think it was very appropriate and much appreciated by all our Dhamma friends who were directly connected to us from all over the world, totaling 181 of our Dhamma friends, and I'm sure they have been a bit more aware of the topic you very well explained to us about the way out of suffering. Thank you very much, Venerable. And once again, I want to thank our committee members from all over the world, including Tarindu, helping us with the technical issues, and Professor Lakshman for organizing in a timely way, sending messages to everybody to participate. And much merit to you, Venerable. Much merit to Sadhu, 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 and I hope that you will be able to participate with us again in the not too distant future. And to all our Dhamma friends, a happy Vesak. Greetings to you all, and thank you very much. Sadhu, Sadhu, Sadhu.
Thank you. Venerable Thero, we have another 10 minutes available. Of course, we have to pay merit to the gods and to the devas and the departed. That's at the end. But if Venerable Thero, I know that had to cut short some other areas. Anything important Venerable Thero wants to talk on? The time is available. A few more minutes that I can make available.
Yes, so I would like to add a little bit to what I explained last. That is the practice. Now, when now the thing that I want to say is that when the whole Buddhist path is now, the Buddha has pointed out, this is something that which I have not added to my slides, but directly connected to what I explained. So the whole process is something that we have to practice with comfort and happiness. Comfort and happiness. This is not a difficult path in the sense that you don't need to strain. You don't need to experience any pain, physical pain or a psychological pain. So I think the practice should be totally with happiness and comfort. The psychological happiness, the bodily comfort. The Buddha says that Kemo maggo so attiko piti gamaniyo ho aryasetang attangikasa magga sadhivachana. This is the Pali text. And the meaning is Kemo maggo, the path is protective. It is a protective path, the path of protection. Kemo maggo, the whole path is a protection, a path of protection. Sovatiko means it is very comfortable. Sovati, Sovatiko Piti Gamaniyo. It is comfortable and a path associated with you have to travel, you have to follow with happiness and joy. So I think a person who actually follows, who actually is on the right track in the practice, is a happy person here and now, every moment. So it's not a person who is disappointed, a person who has any psychological kind of strains. So any moment, whatever happens, whatever the things happen around him, he is a person who can enjoy that particular moment. So I think that, as I said earlier, that is an empirical thing, which means that it is going to be a first-hand experience. But this is not something that you can experience at the beginning, at the very outset. It needs time. So we should not think that the completion of the path is something is possible within a single day. No, it would take years. It would take years. But the one who is actually, when you feel that, when you are confident in that you are on the right track, when you have that confidence develop, the time is not a problem, because you take time because you're enjoying your practice day by day. Even when the disasters come, even when you come across difficult situations, still he learns to psychologically and he manage these external situation in such a way that he's not going to be disappointed. So that kind of practice is always very very beautiful to experience. So I think if you are on the real practice, actually it's truly, because now I will give you one explain. The Buddha is talking about the Nibbana as Siti Bhuta, is his cooled experience a kind of cooling. But now Buddha has not merely said about this sort of cooling experience, Siti Bhuta, nature of Nibbana. So that is a kind of experience of the practitioner, right? So these are everything what he said in the teaching of the Buddha, not only the kind of arising of suffering, but also the experience of the way out of suffering is also a first-hand experience, and it can be experienced practically. So it is 100% practical experience of the practitioner. So that is what I can add to my discussion.
Thank you, Venerable. I think I just received 1 or 2 questions. I will just may have a little time. One is from Hettige. I think it is valuable to provide the differentiation between stream enterer versus stream winner. I think Venerable has already explained that. I don't know, is there anything else Venerable wants to add to that one? Stream enterer versus stream winner.
There is no significant difference. They are, I mean, this is very much the same spiritual state.
Thank you. Then from Padma Holzer, I thought it is very interesting the way Bhante described Passa. Can Bhante expand his explanation a bit more, please? P-A-S-S-A, Passa.
P-H-A-S-S-A, I think.
Yeah, P-A-S-S-A.
Okay, now, yeah, that's a very good question. Now Passa, now as I showed you, is here. Now this is Passa. It is contact. Now the contact. Now basically, contact is understood as as the sensory impingement. Okay, the sensory impingement on the sense organ. So, for example, rupa comes and impinges on eye. A sabda comes, a sound comes and impinges on eye. So that is one way of contact, and there is another one, and that is called patigha sampassa. Patigha sampassa. That is the contact, actually passa. That is passa. And there is another one called adhivachana sampassa. Now here, if you look at this one here, the vijnana is explained here. You will see the vijnana is given here, and then the nama rupa. The nama rupa means the information that we require to develop our cognition about something. And salayatana means that you develop a particular psychological domain, a domain of experience related to something in relation to a particular sense organ. That is how we understand. So if the thing is something related to ear, or say eye, then you build up different domain of eye in relation to that particular object. So the same thing applies to all 6 sense organs. So this one is not actually, as I told you, it is not really given as a moral kind of domain. So what is happening is you have a lot of information here. Many information in the form of nama rupa, pre-learned experience. Now actually I am going to am writing on this now. This is a huge debate on this particular dimension aspect. So now Passa is actually putting all these together, all this information together, but not merely a mere concern of the information that you have, but it has a connection with what we call the unwholesome tendency. So the Passa is the very moment. Not here, the Vijnana is not the moment, Nama Rupa is not the moment, they are informative levels. But at the contact level, you of course have the ability to not only to put all this information together, because you have this Adivachana Sampassa. Adivachana Sampassa means you give a name to something. So how do you give a name? So different names, right? If you understand a particular person, you call him a bad man, it's a name. So how do you get that? You have a connection with unwholesome because you have hatred there. Is a rude man. When you call a particular person rude man, that is Adivachana Sampas. You are giving a name to that one, Adivachana Sampas, and it has a connection with your unwholesome tendencies, because you have an anger or a subtle desire or a gross type of desire or sort of illusion. So that is why we say the Passa is a moment where you can add the elements from unwholesome tendencies like greed, hatred, and illusion. So, and now if you look at the next stage, you will understand that immediately after the Passa levels, now you see, immediately after Passa, you have Vedana, because depending upon the psychological factors, your feeling arises. Then if the feeling is, if the tendency is desire, the feeling is related to desire. All these things make the strong connection, bonds, attachments to the object sense, because we have a lot of, immediately before that, we have a state where we have had our unwholesome tendencies. So that is how Passa can be, I think, better explained.
Thank you, Venerable Thero. There is just one comment I would like to read. From Lakmali Kudaligama, highly appreciate the panel and Venerable Thero for conducting such a detailed program. It would be appreciated if you could continue the program. Thank you for all. Metta for all and happy Vesak. That's a comment that has been made. There is one more from Bhikkhuni Dev An. Thanks so much, Venerable Sir, for your excellent speech. Regarding human experience, my question is, in what ways can understanding dependent origination transform one's perception of personal identity? Is that
So yes, now I think it's a different dimensions that we did not take into account in this discussion. It's a very good question. But now the personal identity is something that now, identity, I mean, there are two types of identities, I would say. That is, one identity is the substantial identity. Substantial identity is what we deny in Buddhism, because that is the view of holding an impermanent, immutable self within our psychocorporeality. That idea is denied. So that is the substantial identity. And another identity is there, that is called empirical identity. So empirical identity is within this sort. For example, the ordinary person, of course, now suffering is and totally first-hand experience, so that you identify yourself with your suffering. So this assigning your I mean, I can conceit, self-conceit. So I will call self-conceit. Assigning your self-conceit with particular experience. For example, when you have suffering, you identify it as my suffering, our suffering. So this adding the coloring, the empirical self-identities, the view that I, mine, so and so forth. I, me, mine kind of involvement is what we call subjective experience, that is empirical, and also subjective. So that is within actually this explanation of paticca samuppada, because causal suffering, even though probably some of these items that I explained in relation to the causal pattern cannot be noticed by like passa, for instance, they are not readily empirical, but some of the other factors, especially when it comes in the form of the experience come in the form of suffering, it is a first-hand experience. So in the causal explanation, you can the suffering at the suffering level, of course, you can identify yourself, your empirical self is expressed, but substantial suffering is not, part of this discussion. So we have not taken that part into account. That's a very good question.
Thank you very much, Venerable Thero. I think we have now come to the end of our Dhamma talk. I must thank Venerable Thero for making the time available to be with us this evening on this very special day, the Vesak Poya. And I must say that the Dhamma talk and the topic of the Paticca Samuppada was one that really, I think, was well received by all our Dhamma friends who attended the Dhamma talk. And the questions also were very appropriate. And I must thank Venerable Thero for answering all those questions. And may I also thank all our Dhamma friends who have attended this Dhamma talk, and may the blessings of the Triple Gem be with all our devotees. Can I now invite Venerable Thero to pay merit to the Devas and the departed? So.
Today is the Vesak full moon Poya day. So I saw the efforts taken by the organizers to conduct this Dhamma discussion. And they were working hard, especially Professor Lakshman Vatawala was very serious and sent me all the details regarding the Dhamma, and think he made everything very convenient to me, and things went very smooth. So there was a lot of commitment to conduct this Dhamma discussion. And there is the panel. So I think it is a sort of regular panel, as I understand. The panel members, I understood, to be very keen on the Dhamma discussion, and they were eager listeners. And by this time, at this point also, we have over 120 participants logged in. So there were over 150 participants listening to this teaching. So, all of us together earn a lot of good karmic forces. So these karmic forces, whether you are expecting something material out of these karmic forces or not, these are going to be beneficial in good way. So these merits are helpful. These merits are effective for not only for some people, to prosper their future existence, and for some who do not have any kind of material expectations in order to promote their spiritual life. So may all these good karmic forces be conducive for our wholesome journey, and be conducive for the promotion of our spiritual life. And also these merits we together transfer to the devas who are in the sugati, in the good state of living, to for their promotion of good, the spiritual promotion. And also the departed spirits who are seeking help from us in the human world, probably our departed spirits, whosoever departed spirits who need merits to refrain from awful states of living. So all these, let's transfer the merits to those everyone, the departed spirits, and they was seeking, expecting merits from us, and may all those spirits, gods and departed spirits be happy and comfortable, and all together, all of us at the ends be able to listen to the doctrine of the Buddha as soon as possible, and be able to understand the reality of Dhamma, and to end this life, the miserable life. So sabbhitiyo vivajjantu sabbarogo vinasatu mate bhavatantarayo sukhi dīghāyuko bhava abhivādana silissa niccang adhāvicāyino cattaro dhamma vaddhanti ayuvanno sukham balang ettavata cammehi sambadam punya sampadam sabbe devanumodantu sabbe bhūtānumodantu sabba sampatti siddhya ආකාසට්ඨා ච බුම්මට්ඨා දේවා නාග මහිද්దికා පුඤ්ඤන්තං අනුමෝදිत्वा චිරං රක්ඛන්තු ලෝක සාසනං ඉදං මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං මේ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං වූ ඥාතිනං හෝතු සුඛිතා හුන්තු ඥාතයෝ ඉදං මේ පුඤ්ඤං ආසවක්ඛ්‍යාවහං හෝතු සබ්බ දුක්ඛා අපමුඤ්චතු සාදු සාදු
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So thank you very much, Venerable Thero, and may the merits of the Dhamma sharing bring you peace, good health, and success in the teaching of the Dhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.